Greetings and salutations. This is going to be a short video. I needed to make something. Spent a whole bunch of time playing Magic the Gathering. And it's currently 3:46 in the morning. And I forgot to record. So, yeah. So now I'm here. I'm recording at this time. So I figured might as well get started and see what I could get up to here. Now, obviously, I don't want to spend too awful much time on this because, like I said, it's borderline 4 in the morning. And of course, like I said, the show must go on. I'm all in, and I will say this right now. I've only missed one day of recording. Only one. And missing that one day of recording, looking back on it, I feel awful. Almost like, even though I'm a small channel, I feel like I let people down, you know? And so I decided to set myself to a higher standard. Now, holding yourself to that high of a standard is I think it's something that everyone should do. Pardon me. Hold on, just 1 second. I gotta mute the mic. Still getting over that cold, so. But nevertheless, I think people should always hold themselves to a high standard, or a higher standard, and put in the time and put in the effort. And I wanted to mention something about a bit of a hot button topic lately over the past, 24 to 48 hours. Now, of course, everybody's like, oh boy, here it comes. Guy's going to talk about the recent migration debate. Yeah, a little bit, yeah. And my standpoint is this. Do I want to see people succeed? Yes. Do I want to see America as a nation succeed? Yes. However, and this is a caveat, you have had a nation where you used to get on-the-job training, and that was replaced. And it was replaced by degree required. And my camera's still on the fritz, but it was replaced with degree required. And yes, I put that in quotes. And they kept saying, oh, you need a degree. You need a degree. Well, if you take a look at it, the average cost of a degree in American university is anywhere from $42,000 to $100,000, depending on how long you're going to the university. 41 to $100,000 in a ballpark. Now, compare that with how much it costs to go through a university in India. And you look at it in US dollars, it's about $11,000. Anywhere from 1/4 to 1/10 the cost. Now you have to ask yourself, all these degree required jobs that the H-1B visas would take, how many of them actually require skilled labor that you couldn't learn on the job? Like, you mean to tell me that you couldn't pay a guy, intern's wages to learn this on the job? That seems highly suspicious that you couldn't, right? So you have on-the-job training. You're there for a few months, and what does this do? Now, this is where my logic comes into play. You get into a job, right? And when you're in that job, you have on-the-job training. What's that do? Well, it shows you how driven the worker's going to be. He's going to get intern wages for the time he's training. And once he completes the training, if he is sufficient in the job and he knows what he's doing, he gets bumped up to normal wage. He gets bumped up to normal salary. Which means he will be making the same amount of money that anyone else would have. You remove the whole degree required thing. Therefore, you're now no longer forcing people to have to go incur massive levels of debt to just be able to join the workforce in these jobs. So you take away the debt slavery portion of it, which is what it is. I mean, regardless what anyone says, it literally is debt slavery. We're going to put you 100,000 into debt and have you apply for this job. No. We're going to have you go 100,000 in debt, and then we're still going to pick up a guy from a country that only went 10,000 in debt because we can hire him cheaper than you. That's what it's turned out to be. If you take away that degree requirement and you say on-the-job training, now you're looking at local talent, and you're saying, okay, this local talent can prove itself to me for an intern's wages until such time that they've completed the training. If they're sufficient in the job after the training, they go up to normal salary. Saves you time of bringing in these quote-unquote skilled workers, and I do say that because sometimes they're not. And it saves you money in the long run, because if they don't work out, guess what? You've gotten some work done, maybe not as efficiently as you wanted, but you've gotten some work completed. You're still fostering native talent. You're still reaching out to closer to local communities and local people and local job opportunities, and you're not slighting 2/3 of the nation just so you can make ends meet on a spreadsheet, right? So, and this is the impasse that we're at. We're at this impasse where they want to sit there and say, well, we're making these quotas and we're making this much money. We're creating this much GDP. Okay, but how does that translate? Do you yourself, living in rural America, reap the benefit of a higher GDP? No. You do not directly get money from the GDP being higher. You don't. I don't. Nobody does. The GDP's higher, so we produce more. That's great. Puts more money into the government. Do John Q. Public see that money at all? Ever? No. No, we don't. The only time you ever see money come back from the government is tax refund. That's it. So if GDP doesn't necessarily translate to the pocketbooks of everyday Americans, why does everybody make it such a pivotal point to talk about when hiring people? You can increase your GDP more if we hire external labor and bring it in. Okay, so your gross domestic product goes up. We produce more things. Great. But you've also brought in the labor. You're not hiring the labor force that's currently out of labor now. You're hiring new labor from an external source, which helps no one here in the country. It helps everyone outside of the country. That's a little weird. So it doesn't help anything domestic, except, of course, the spreadsheets and the collective interests of those spreadsheets. So instead of going with a slower yet more economically feasible option of hiring local talent, they're instead going to go with the cheaper option that makes them more money in the end. This becomes a problem because, again, now you're going to have a higher unemployment. Now, those people that are now unemployed are now going to have to draw off of the unemployment, which comes directly out of the government spending. How can you curtail government spending if you're now putting more people in the unemployment sector because you want to save money on your employees? It's a self-deflating system. It's going to eat itself. Right? If you hire local people and you get those local people to do the job and you train them on the job, you can now essentially stick it to the uh, universities. You can take away the whole degree required thing, which is just a pretext to go into debt, and you can bring back actual on-the-job training. And people say, oh, you can't learn to code on the job. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. I've done absolutely no coding whatsoever. My brother, who's a self-taught engineer at a furniture factory, he does the engineering for the actual furniture. Like, he designs it. He's a CAD program user. He sits down and programs the code, programs the machine to cut out the specific dimensions of a piece of furniture, a desk or a credenza or a chair, and then he sends it to the floor. At which point it cuts out the pieces they need, and then they plan it all out so that it curtails waste. So the more you can cut out of a single piece, the more waste you curtail. That's pretty much what his job is curtailing waste by doing engineering and putting more and more stuff on a single sheet so it doesn't burn up, so it doesn't make industrial waste. He's self-taught. Nobody showed him how to sit down and use that program. He doesn't have a degree required either. It's a degree required job, but he did it on his own volition. Now, he showed me some of the code that he was working with. He sent me a picture. Knowing nothing of coding and knowing nothing of what he was working on, I understood the general idea of the code. I understood the general idea of what the code wanted to do. Now, it's not hard. There's a lot of people out there that are a quick study. And these people that are I apologize. These people that are a quick study and can pick up, what a job does rapidly. These are the people that you can hire. These are the people you can train. These are the people that could fill your ranks, and they're here available today. You don't have to wait months for the visa for the visa application to be confirmed. You don't have to wait months for this person to be able to travel here on a plane. You don't have to wait months. None of that has to be applicable. You could just do it. Have it ready and available tomorrow. And it shows willingness. Not really, I can't say willingness. It shows drive, determination of the worker itself. You now have a worker that's saying, you know what? I'm driven to do this. I'm driven to be here. I want to do the best that I can for this company because I want to prove to them that I'm the best thing they could. The best thing they could have done was hire me. Instead of outsource. Now, it's going to be difficult to get certain people to understand this. Right? And that's the thing is you have a lot of people out there that do not understand why there's a vast plethora of Americans who are upset at this current situation that has been thrown out there. They're upset because they're being told we wanted to make an America First platform, right? We wanted to put Americans to the forefront of things and say we're going to get you back to work. We're going to get you to have pride in your corporations. We're going to get you to have pride in your labor, and to immediately be told, and the easiest way to do that, and the easiest way to have pride in everything you're building and doing today, is to bring in a whole bunch of people from another country to do this job. How does that make the worker proud? It doesn't. I mean, I kind of hate to be that guy, but it does not make the worker proud. It does the opposite. It deflates him. It deflates him because he looks at it and he goes, "Wait a minute. I was I wanted to be a part of this thing where we were going to bring pride and made in America and joy back to the working man, whether they be skilled or unskilled, blue collar or white collar." And what happened? We got told, "Don't worry, you don't have to do that job. Those jobs are going to be given away to other people so that you can rest easy and watch your football. Here's a shovel. Make sure you put the pointy end into the dirt first." That's what you're telling the American public. I mean, it's kind of a punch to the gut, you know? But having those people come in and do the work at the intern pay grade and have them compete for the jobs, what does that do? That promotes business competition. Now, business competition is a good thing. Most people don't seem to think so. But business competition is a good thing, especially inside the business itself. You have a business that says, "Well, we make whatever, doesn't really matter, airplanes. You make airplanes. We need a designer, a wing designer. So you hire 5 people who are potential wing designers. It gives you innovation. It gives you it gives you a broader spectrum of possibilities because now you have multiple people all working on the same project. And because they're all working for interns' wages, you can hire 4 or 5 of them at an intern's wage, all competing for that job, and have it still cost less than the job itself that you were hiring for. And you could do this, and you could get away with it. And then you tell a lot of the applicants, "Sorry, you didn't make the cut." They know they're competing for a job. They know the moment they walk in the door, they're competing for a job. Which means they got to bring their A game. This creates an entire group of people driven to succeed. If you want to drive people to succeed, you don't tell them they're lazy and stupid. Like somebody who I will not name mentioned the other day on Twitter. You do not do that. Because what does that do? It tells you, you guys are worthless over here. We don't want you. We want this other group of people because we know that we can expect 110% out of them and effectively replace the American worker with somebody else. That's what you're doing. You want to drive people to succeed? Put them in a competition. Make them bring their A game. Apologize again. Make them bring their A game. Force them to bring their A game. Force them to compete for that job. This is how you foster a competitive spirit. And this is how you get people to succeed. And this is how you get people to have drive to succeed. You have to give them a reason to succeed. You have to inspire them. And what they've done in the past 48 hours is they've done the exact opposite. They've just sucked the wind out of the sails of everything and said, "Well, it's back to curtains for you." Which, I mean, this just dovetails into the whole, you know, though there's an epidemic of male loneliness, and there's this epidemic of men's mental health, right? And I gotta tell you something. I don't suffer with that mental health problem. I don't look at myself and say, "Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough." You know why? Because I look at it. I look at it this way. I look at the world, and I say, I don't care what they think. You know, I know my worth. I don't care what they think. I don't care what they have to say. Doesn't affect how I wake up the next morning and put my pants on. Doesn't affect how I wake up tomorrow morning and have breakfast. Nah, doesn't bother it one iota. Now, people would say, well, then why are you doing YouTube? You're in a competition. Yeah, you're right. I am in a competition. I'm competing with a lot of people. I'm competing with other people, but I'm competing mostly with myself. I'm competing with myself saying, you know what? I can do this. And I'm proving to myself that I can do it. The channel metrics are reflective of that. Now, of course, people would say, well, wait a minute. Why do you talk about why do you talk about like current events? Because it's Diablo. I don't really have to think. I can talk about current events. I don't really have to think about it. But this epidemic of male loneliness and male worthlessness is a multifaceted problem that has landed in the laps of this generation of men. Mostly because they're not told what they're worth. They don't know how to feel about themselves. And you know what I've told somebody? I told Dylan this, my friend Dylan. I've told this to a lot of people. I said, look, who cares what other people think? What do you think about you? And they say, well, I know. And they kind of wishy-washy about it. No. Just be honest with yourself. Tell you how you feel about you, as if you were telling somebody else. And they sit there for a second and they're like, yeah, you know what? And they kind of come around to it. Sometimes it takes a little bit of a different approach to get them to come around to it, but most of the time it's, you give them that fuel and they just run with it. Now, here's the other part of it. They say, well, what about all these girls? What about these women that don't want us? Guess what? That's their loss. That's their loss. If they can't see the value that you are, that's on them. That's on them, man. Is eventually somebody's going to see what you're worth, and they're going to notice it, and when they see it, they're gonna want to be drawn to it like a moth to a flame. But these kids today, these younger generation today, they're not driven to succeed. They sit there and they think that they have to be the best at something. You don't. You don't have to be the best at something. You just have to want to drive to succeed. Now, what's your definition of success? Find that definition of success. If your definition of success is creating a business, guess what? Do it. Do it. Go out, get the permits, get the doing business as or whatever, get the things you need, get the documentation in order, come up with an idea, and do it. If you need investment capital, go work that job at McDonald's. Go work that job somewhere else, right? You need that investment capital. That's going to get your foot in the door. There you go. And I've had people tell me, well, what's that mean for you then, right? You're doing YouTube. You used to have a job. Yeah, I used to have a job. I used to have a job at a school as a substitute teacher. And I was inspiring students there too. I was also using humor as a foil in which to inspire students. Because when you use humor, it allows them to connect with you. It allows them to see you as an individual, a person, somebody with a personality, more than just a stuffed shirt pushing, tasks down their throat. Because that's exactly what it is. The majority of substitutes and the majority of faculty are now seen as staff. And this goes back to the whole discussion about colleges and universities not really caring. Because they don't. It's a money scam. But I mean, all they do is they see students as means to an end, and the students see them as just another, stuffed shirt, serious face that doesn't really care about them. But when you use humor, you can connect with the students. And when you connect with the students, these students then feel like, hey, this person actually exists. They act like a human being. They're not just going through the motions. They're not coming here to collect a paycheck. They care. And it was that humor that got me fired. Not shy about it. I said a joke. It was an off-color joke. Made them laugh. All the seniors laughed. But it was that joke that they went home, told their parents. Their parents didn't care for it. And said, well, that's an unprofessional attitude, and I got canned for it. But I inspired students to look at things with a different perspective. I inspired students to want to do certain things like go into building trades. Go to become a welder. I said, hey, welders and pipe welders, they make tons of money. Tons of money. We're talking 75, 125 an hour. So it's like, okay, well, what do you got now? Well, I'm doing YouTube. And they go, yeah, but you run a small channel. You're not really making any money. Not yet. But I will. And you want to know why? Because videos like this, they tell people, you got to be inspired, man. You got to get that fire inside you. And you got to push toward that. But in order to foster that competition, you need to sit there and say, you know what? This person has to want it. This person has to go out and they have to want to be that guy. They have to want to go out there and say, draw my line in the sand, put my foot in the dirt and say, you know what? This is my time. That's it. All it takes, really. Once you do that, boom. You'll find that drive come up out of nowhere. And this is what they need to do. Like, this is what a lot of employers need to do. They need to foster that workplace competition so that people... I apologize. So that people want to yearn to do better. That's it. It's like that SNL skit with Christopher Walken. You gotta want that cowbell. That's the cowbell. Being on the top of your game and saying, I put in 100%. I left nothing to chance. I put in 100%, went out on the field, gave it my all. Doesn't matter if it's sports. Doesn't matter if it's a job. Doesn't matter if it's a job application. Doesn't matter. It does not matter what you're doing. You go out there and you give 100%. And people say, oh, you mean 110%? No, you can't give 110%. That is a fallacy. Okay? That is a fallacy. So, what you do is you just go out there and you give 100%. You leave nothing to chance. You look back on, and people say, well, how do you know you gave 100%? When you're done, let's say it's a job interview. Let's say you're interviewing for a position. You walk out of that door after doing that job interview, and you look at yourself and you say, could I have answered something better in that interview? And you take a step back and you go, nope, I nailed it. Then you left nothing on the field. You gave it all. You left nothing to chance, and you just said, I did it. I went in there, and I just gave it 100%. And if they don't choose me, then they have a better candidate. That's it. That's it. That's all it is. Hold on. I gotta go blow my nose. Be right back. Sorry about that. I had to blow my nose. My nose started to run instead of sniffling and everything. I figured, just mute the microphone. I see that right there's the glory of the unedited content, because now you're going to be like, wait a minute, he literally just walked away? Yes, I did. But back to what I was saying, you have to foster that competition. Not necessarily a competitive spirit in like you have to be better than everyone else. You have to just say, I did everything. I did all I could. I put my best foot forward. I put it all out there. If someone's a better candidate, cool. They deserve the job. They beat me. Right? And that's all it takes. Just that mindset. And you get into that mindset and people say, oh, that's the Sigma mindset. No. Let's not ascribe anything like that. It's a mindset for success. You have to go out there knowing that it's going to go your way. Because you're doing everything that you can to get it to go your way. And it's just how it is. And these guys that are out there and they're lost in the sauce, they're saying to themselves, oh, what am I worth? What am I worth? You said that. It's not up to society to dictate what you're worth. It's not up to society to tell you what your worth is, to tell you what's good, what's not. It's not up to society. It's not up to them. It's up to you. You set the terms for who you are. You set the terms for who you're meant to be. You set the terms for what you're worth. And you want to know what? You're going to have a whole boatload of people that are going to say, oh, those terms are unacceptable. Guess what? That's your loss, pal. If they don't find you acceptable, that's on them. That's on them. I tell you, when I when I did that, I turned over a mental leaf in my head. I used to be that way. I used to sit there and question, am I good enough? Am I this? Am I that? I was a number one person questioning in my head. Am I good? Am I this? And then I came to the conclusion, why am I looking to other people for validation? You just you just take the validation yourself. You just sit there and you say, you know what? I'm worth it. I know my worth. I know my value. I know how much I am. And you put that crown on your own head. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, if you leave it up to society, society will do nothing but drag you down and try to prove to you that you're worth nothing. And the reason they do that is because if they can beat you down, then that puts them in a higher position. That's why they do it. That's why society tries to beat people down. Because it's like, oh, well, if I just beat them down, then I'm in a higher position than they are. See? It's a tactic to get you to be subservient, to get you to be less than you're meant to be. And I know that I've already got people out there saying, well, what am I meant to be? That's up to you to dictate it. You'll know what you're meant to be. It'll come to you. When you least expect it, it'll just pop into your head and you'll be like, so that's it. That's it. That's what you're meant to be.
How may I help you?
Of course, you'd have people like me saying, you, well, not like me. You got people would say to me, like, so you're saying that me personally right now, that I'm meant to be a YouTuber, that I'm meant to be this big, popular YouTube star. Nah, nah, nah. You want to know what I'm meant to be? An inspiration, a battle cry to a generation long forgotten, to a generation of people told, you can't. I'm saying, you can. And when you do, you're going to leave a mark on the world. Believe me. You might not see it. You might sit there and say, I don't know about that. And you hem and you haw and maybe. Trust me, you're going to leave a mark on the world. And when you do, you will see what that mark does, what that mark is, and what it does, and how it affects those around you. It's like a ripple. Starts off small. You hit one person, you hit two people. That ripple picks up speed, picks up strength, picks up intensity. As it starts resonating with people. And once it resonates, and it gets into their hearts, and their hearts beat in the same rhythm, you can inspire an entire cadre of people to stand up and say, no more. I dictate how my life goes. I dictate my worth. I dictate my value. I set the terms. And you leave it up to other people to say whether it's acceptable or unacceptable.
Yes.
Let me tell you,
Ask and learn.
your entire worldview will shift. But that's about all for this video today. I had a great time, and I hope you did as well. Never let anyone take that power away from you. You set your terms, man. And if there's ladies out there and they're listening, same thing can be said. Set your terms. Because the guys that come up to you, they're either going to accept it or they're going to walk away. And if they walk away, guess what? It's a them problem, not a you problem. So, there you go. I hope everybody has a fantastic evening, a wonderful tomorrow, and as always, have a good one.